Thanks.
Okay.
I'm Nalini Nadkarni, the director for the University of Utah's Center for Science and Math Education. And I want to welcome you back. There are a few people who came in today who weren't here yesterday. Could you guys raise your hands and just give us your name and your institution so we get to know you a bit?
Yes, hi, good morning. I'm Nancy Marino with Baylor College of Medicine, Center for Educational Outreach.
Great, thanks.
John Taylor, Southern Utah University.
And if John falls asleep in the middle of your presentation, it's because he drove up from Cedar City this morning and it has nothing to do with your presentation. Thanks, John, for making that effort. Anyone else new that wasn't here last night? I guess we have a late arrival. Sorry, no problem. Great, well, welcome everyone. We're going to be continuing with presentations of individual centers this morning. But I just wanted to sort of lay out kind of the thread of what we'll be doing for the rest of the conference and give it some context. We've already gotten, I think, a good first step in terms of getting to know each other, sort of having that first date, as I said last night, in terms of getting acquainted with each other's work, the challenges and the successes that we've made at individual centers. And so I think today is sort of like that second date, maybe inviting your date to go out on a hike in the forest so that you get to know each other a little bit better, but there's still lots to find out about each other. As I mentioned last night, I'm a forest ecologist by training, and so I tend to see the world in terms of trees and forests. And one of the things that I bring to the world of science and math education as a sort of as a forest ecologist is to, could we get the lights? Emily, is Emily here? I think she figured out how to do that. Is to see, well, I see the world in terms of forests. I see them as forests as entities that are made of individual components like our education system. We have teachers, we have trainers, we have students, we have principals, we have professors. Just as we have trees and soil and insects and birds and so forth, they're all interwoven. They all make a complex and interacting ecosystem, and they are all somewhat difficult to understand and somewhat fragile in that they're vulnerable to disturbances. And so that's what we're trying to think about today and tomorrow, and that is how we might use the 4 words here that we developed for this conference: inspiration, education, collaboration, and transformation. And so as we do our work in our breakout sessions this morning, as we listen to the panels today and tonight, as we do further work in terms of interacting with each other, we'd like you to keep these 4 words in mind as they, I think they really foster thinking about the interweaving of the different parts of our ecosystem, not only the different centers that are here, but the different components that make up the world, the ecosystem of science and math education. And that includes higher ed and the legislature, K-12 and the quality of teachers that are produced by higher ed, the support or not of the different publics that interact with science and math education, the scientists and the evaluators and the mathematicians who provide the academic knowledge and research that we then present to the public. From what I've seen so far, I'm learning that very often these different elements that should be intertwined, like the structure of this profile diagram of a tropical rainforest, are very often separated, that they're really seen as separate entities, and that the control that we have with individual parts prevents us from having control of other parts. And I think that that makes for a rather frustrating experience with the science and math education system. That is, very often we feel that we wish we could shape the limb of the next tree or put fertilizer in the soil of the part of the forest somewhere different from where we are sequestered. And this, I think, adds to the frustration that we feel as we work within the system of science and math education. I've also seen that sometimes this isolation occurs not only between parts of the forest, but even within the part of a single tree, that is, within the single Center for Science and Math Education, or a single department of science, or a single college of education. And hopefully what we will be doing in these next few days will break down some of those barriers so that we can more clearly interact and interweave what we have to offer to this complex and beautiful system of science and math education. So to sort of set the stage then for the conference, we would like to kind of invite you into the forest canopy so that you can put aside some of the day-to-day worries and hassles and frustrations and work that you're doing in your individual centers and your individual institutions, and to be here for the next 2 days and to really breathe that higher atmosphere of being in the forest, to look out over it so that we might bring some light into some of the difficult problems that science and math educators face. And affect that fourth word that we're talking about, which is transformation. Obviously, we're not going to solve all of these problems in the 2.5 days we have together, but really what we're about is trying to set the stage for bringing the collective force of our centers for science and math education across the country to solve some of these problems together. So in looking towards the future then, taking our walk into the forest, maybe for the first time together, I'd like you to think about what we are doing here as a progression. Yesterday evening and this morning, we are having presentations and listening to what we are doing at our individual centers. After the last 4 presentations, Louisa Stark is going to be leading a discussion about the collective challenges and solutions that individual centers are facing, so that we'll be getting into 4 breakout groups and talking about the work that each of our centers is doing in an effort to really find the emerging threads, the emerging ideas that can come out of the individual work that we're doing. We'll then move into a panel discussion of STEM education, where some people from Utah will be presenting STEM education, from Utah and elsewhere, will be presenting some of the challenges that STEM education and K-12 in particular are facing. We'll have another set of discussions about that. And this evening we'll be sort of pulling it together with a larger discussion of science and math education from higher education on through K-12 and even including a high school student himself. Tomorrow we'll have some time to do some more discussing and talking about where this might lead. And I wanted to present you with kind of what we're hoping to end up with at the end of the session, at the end of this conference, so that we can build toward that during each of these exercises that we present in between. What we'd really like to come away with is some useful work that would lead towards several products. One would be a white paper that is a real document, not written here in its entirety here at the conference, but that would lead to a subset of us writing a white paper that would really highlight the successes, the challenges, and the ways that Centers for Science and Math Education might contribute to the enterprise, to the whole forest of science and math education in the future, that might be read by policymakers, that might be read by funders, that might be read by other Centers for Science and Math Education. And we would welcome all of your thinking and all of your work into that eventual white paper. The second type of product that we're thinking about would involve writing proposals to go to the National Science Foundation to write proposals that would fund either another larger conference or some mechanism that would allow us to have continuing conversations about what Centers for Science and Math Education might be. For example, there's a mechanism right now that we are aware of called the Research Coordination Networks at the National Science Foundation. The Education and the Education Directorate is a part of that, so that might be one kind of a proposal that we might put together that would allow us to continue these conversations. And a third possible project is one that I can't articulate yet because I don't know what it might be. It might come out of a breakout session. It might be the inspiration of a single person who's sitting here at one of these tables that comes up with a really great idea that we haven't even conceived of yet. So please think creatively, please think connectively, please think transformatively as we move into this next section of our conference. With that, if there are no comments, I'd like to start the next cycle of our presentations and bring up our next presenter from Vanderbilt University.
Okay, first of all, I have to apologize. I have developing laryngitis, so if my voice just clunks out, I will ask my colleague, Dr. Angela Eads, to kind of take over, but I'll try to make it through this. And obviously, some of our formatting is disappearing on the slide. My name is Virginia Shepard, and I'm a faculty member in the School of Medicine. So our center is itself housed in the School of Medicine. I started working back in the early 90s, but I can't claim a center that old, so you still have me beat there. We established an office in 2000 and the center officially in 2003, 2004. So what I'm going to try to do, I think today, we've heard a lot about the various centers who are doing, I think, some similar kinds of things, maybe a few different kinds of things, but many of us are focusing on connecting scientists and engineers with K-12, and that's exactly what we do. So everything I'm going to tell you about is basically connecting a scientist, be that graduate student, postdoc, or faculty, with a K-12 teacher or student. These are a few pictures from our programs. We have the usual professional development workshops. We have summer science camps for middle school kids, which every year is the most work, costs the most because we don't charge very much, and it's the most oversubscribed of any program we have, so we have to keep that one going. We have a summer research experience for high school students that we've had going for a long time. I'm going to talk about the Scientists in the Classroom Partnership, the School for Science and Math at Vanderbilt, and the Interdisciplinary Science and Research Program. As I put it, I put all my eggs in the Metro Schools basket. So my sole partner right now in terms of schools is the public schools in Nashville. It's a large urban, high poverty, high minority, low performing school district. So that gives you some of our challenges. And there are a few local foundations that we partner with, and importantly, we have a nice coalition of 4 very different universities. Vanderbilt, which is a private top 15 university in the country, small. Meharry Medical College is a historically black medical school. Tennessee State is a minority-serving large state university, and Fisk is a private HBCU undergraduate. Funding, we've had a lot of discussion about funding. Oddly, differently, I think, than many of you, we get a lot of our funding from Metro schools. We have right now just started a 5-year contract for a big portion of money. We're getting race to the top money from the state. We get NIH money, and then local and private foundations, as well as infrastructure money from the university. Now let me go over closer here. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear me. So these are 3 of our major programs right now. The Scientist in the Classroom program is a program that came out of the GK-12 program. We were funded initially in 2000. We were refunded in 2003, and I'm very passionate about this program. I think it's a great program. The basic premise is to partner graduate students, and in our case, it's graduate students and postdocs with classrooms. And in our current model, graduate students and postdocs go into classrooms 1 day a week. We compensate them with supplemental stipends of $7,000, and they in turn give us, I've got 1 minute, they give us 1 day of their time. Going over to the School for Science and Math, which I think is a very unique program, and you need to talk to Dr. Eads about this at our poster. Students come to a part-time school on campus for a day a week. Each grade comes a different day. It's a phenomenal program for highly talented kids. We've had 41 graduates. We're now in our 6th year. The Interdisciplinary Science and Research Program is an adaptation of that program where we've moved into 2 high schools and also are serving a K-12 cluster, if you will, in one of those low-performing districts. The primary challenge is partnering our large Research One private university with an urban school district. The other obvious challenge is how do we sustain these programs? Thanks. Questions?
Any questions?
Do you provide any training to the graduate students and postdocs before they interact with the students in the classroom and teachers?
Yes, one of the hallmarks of this GK-12 program is to, we used to do a 4-week workshop, now we do a 2-week workshop where we bring the teachers that we carefully interview, observe, they apply for the program, as do the graduate students and postdocs apply to the program. We bring them together, match them during a 2-week workshop, and provide pedagogical training, standards training, inquiry training, classroom management, what is it like to go into a middle school classroom, and so forth. So it's very intense.
I think, also being from Washington University, where we're trying to partner with city schools, it often feels like that 2 steps forward, 1 or 2 steps back, because of turnover
Right.
in the district. Just wondering how, if you kind of work with if you have that same experience and sort of what you do in terms of trying to help kind of facilitate that.
I'm going to answer that in 2 ways. We fostered the relationship with the district over a long time, and so I have a very close relationship with the director on down, and including the research office of the district that I have the best relationship with, and they provide student data and comparison groups for us, which is phenomenal. That's been we have quantitative outcomes from our programs. The other thing is that we tend to try and work with the administration at the school level to actually assist in building the teacher workforce at that school. So we're involved in curriculum decisions, we're involved in teacher selections, we're involved in a lot of the very school-based operation day to day.
Great, thanks so much. All right, our next presentation is from the Baylor College of Medicine in Houston, Texas.
Good morning. Again, my name is Nancy Moreno. I'm with the Center for Educational Outreach at Baylor College of Medicine in Houston. I'm here with Barbara Tharp, and we're associate directors of our center. I'm a biologist, and Barbara is a long-time science educator, and we've been involved in these activities for almost 20 years. But our center predates that, or at least our college's activities, by about 20 more years. Our initial partnership at Baylor College of Medicine with the Houston schools started with the DeBakey High School for Health Professions, which was the first magnet health professions school in the country. It led to a network of 7 magnet high schools in South Texas and in Houston, of which 3 consistently are ranked among the top 100 best high schools in the country. So that was our beginning. So we benefit from a lot of institutional support at the highest levels for our activities. With that said, you can also see in the list, the font is a little small, but we have to look everywhere for funding for our programs, just like everyone else. We're funded by National Science Foundation, and National Institutes of Health, our local school district, the Houston Independent School District, and with all of that, we cobble together at any given time, about 15 active programs nationally and locally, all aimed at improving access of students to careers in the sciences, as science literacy of the general public, and the quality of teaching and learning in schools. Our teacher professional development programs are both online and live. Barbara directs programs for about 400 teachers live every summer, so she is already gearing up to do some very intensive teacher summer institutes for elementary and middle school teachers in Houston. We also develop curriculum materials, usually on science topics that are not covered well in textbooks, so they're a little more recent. In fact, we're going to be working on some new neuroscience projects, as well as teaching materials on genetics and genomics in the coming 4 years. We work internationally and have had 4 experiments fly on the International Space Station. These have involved growing live organisms in microgravity and sharing the images that are collected with teachers and students here on Earth, who then have ground-based controls in their classrooms. So these projects have enabled us to reach students in about 26 countries and involved hundreds of thousands of students here in the United States as well. We've also realized that as hard as we work, and I'm sure you all have the same problem, as hard as we work, we just can't do enough, and we can't reach enough teachers. So we've also moved as aggressively as we're able into using web-based resources and web-based dissemination of our activity. So we are developing courses for teachers online, as well as resources that can be downloaded. And again, are partnered with a number of different organizations to provide these services. So we partnered with Earth Skies, who has the radio series on NPR. We partner with Nature Education, NASA, American Physiological Society, and just about anyone else will partner with us. We serve about 1.5 million users a year on these websites, which are, our main website is called BioEd Online. Some of you may be familiar with it. We have 2 other sites. One is called K-8 Science, which specifically targets grades K through 8 with teaching resources, and another website which is available only by subscription, which serves Texas teachers. It's called Superstar, and it's something new that we started last year. It's a one-stop shopping for Texas teachers on all of our state standards. So if I'm a 3rd grade teacher and I need to teach the water cycle next week, I can go on, find the concept and the state standard related to the water cycle, find the science content that I need that's been vetted, find appropriate signature lessons, find follow-up lessons, appropriate assessments, and then links to reading language arts. That's kind of the new direction in which we're moving, and we're finding that everything we do is informed by and feeding our web-based activities. This is our challenge, of course. I think it's a common challenge for all of us, and it is the maintaining continuity when we're always forced by our funders to come up with something new and something different rather than funding the existing programs, that this is a shared problem by all of us, and sustaining these programs over time. That said, we have been able to institutionalize programs. Including an MD-PhD program, a BSMD program with schools in South Texas that goes all the way from high school into medical school. The DeBakey High School for Health Professions, of course, is 40 years old. Some of our other curriculum projects also have been sustained. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Question? Yeah.
Yes, I have a question about your Superstar online service that you offer. In order to be able to look at it, could we get a subscription to it, or is it only people in Texas that could get a subscription to it?
Anyone could get a subscription to it, and we would be happy to offer a user ID to everyone here to be able to log on. Yeah, so just let us know. It certainly would be usable for other states. Because, even if it's water cycle in 3rd grade for Texas, that could work for 4th grade somewhere else or 2nd grade. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it took us a year to create it, and unlike our other websites which have original material, this is a curated website. So we've gone out and found if AAAS has a fantastic lesson, we've linked to that. The problem is we're already maintaining about 1,000 pages of content, and the links are changing, and so it's, keeping it up to date is already a challenge for us.
That was my follow-up about the next generation standards. Are you going to link it to that as well?
No, we're going to stay with the Texas standards because that's our audience for this website. But again, it is reflective of the next generation standards.
All right, great, thanks. The next presentation is us, which is University of Utah Center for Science and Math Education here in Salt Lake City. Last night, for those of you who were here, Hugo gave a wonderful introduction to the history of our site and how it was formed, what were some of the things that we're doing in formal science education. So I'll be brief here in terms of what we do. I interpreted the mission of this exercise of presentations in terms of the challenges are the challenges that we are faced with, rather than what we are what we are challenged with. In terms of the challenges that we face from the outside, when this center was founded, some of the challenges included the lack of K-12 teachers and the desire for more teachers and higher quality K-12 math and science teachers, the lack of retention in undergraduate sciences, especially in the very early stages, freshman and sophomore science, the lack of diversity in our students, in our staff, and our faculty who are involved with math and science education, the dearth of evaluation and assessment instruments and research-based programs, and finally the low public awareness and appreciation for science and math in society here. And so those are the kinds of things that we've tried to address here in our very young Center for Science and Math Education. And again, using the tree and forest theme that I seem to be fixated on, we really see our center as kind of in the form and function of what a tree is. That is, we pull from the roots of science and mathematics and also education. So the roots of our tree, of our center, is the College of Science, which here incorporates math, biology, physics, and chemistry. Geology enters in as well. It happens to be it resides in a different administrative college, but we pull on geology as well, and of course on the College of Education. So we sit right in between the colleges of science and the College of Science and the College of Education. The branches of the tree we sort of separate into formal science education programs and informal science education programs. Our formal science educations constitute teacher training. We have a master's of science for secondary teachers in math, in the sciences, and we've just started a new one in geology. We have a Math for America program that trains new math teachers. We're working, just this year, we've started working with the Navajo Nation here. We have a summer workshop, a teacher training workshop for Navajos at their reservation that will be starting. And we also have a science fair that's very vibrant. This year there were over 500 contributions with mentors from high school and from the university for the students. In terms of our informal science education programs to foster a society that welcomes and nurtures math and science within society, we have a Physics for Refugees program that's in conjunction with our University Neighbors partnership. We have a Sustainability in Prisons project, which brings science and sustainability lectures and projects to the Utah State prison system. We have a Sports and Science program, which unites the academic science aspects with the glamour of sports and athletics. That's actually being funded by the athletics program. We have posters that we've made with a sports figure in uniform with a scientist in uniform as well. We're making videos and having visits of athletes and scientists to middle schools to show kids that you don't have to choose between being a geek or a jock, that you can actually put those two together. And we work with a wonderful group. We're partnering with a wonderful group called the Osher Institute, which brings classes and education to older citizens. So we just finished up a wonderful class called Hidden Worlds of Science to these students, so to speak, and pulling upon faculty members and staff members in the College of Science. We're starting a faith-based outreach program where we bring scientists to churches, synagogues, and temples to bring their areas of research, linking them to spirituality and religion, again showing that there's not a conflict between science and other parts of society. And finally, we're trying to help foster scientists, to give them the tools to both make connections to the outside of the world of academia by giving them training in filmmaking and video making. We have a National Geographic group coming in each fall that provides a science filmmaking class, training in public speaking, and in media training as well. So that is a quick overview of the kinds of projects that we have become engaged with. We're trying to connect to as many parts of the university and to the community as possible to uplift the idea that math and science education belongs everywhere in our society. Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Noah?
Good morning. Noah Finkelstein, Colorado. I think this is great, and I love the tree metaphor. Here, I'm curious about the level of overlap that you can achieve between the different branches. I don't know exactly what that would be, a hybrid of some sort between the different branches, but have you found a way to intersect the informal and the formal in productive ways? Because I think that that's a key mechanism that we can draw on to institutionalize the practices.
Right, I think that's a great question. I think the tree metaphor works also, and I have depicted this, as you notice, as a deciduous tree. So the leaves that fall and then decompose actually nurture the system. So there's really a flow from the outside community to the academic community, which nurtures it, which we all know happens, but I think very often people think about academics and higher education moving out and only making that flow one way. So this is really a circular pathway. The other aspect of the biology of trees, as you know, is that the vascular system of trees circulates nutrients and water throughout, and that nutrients can be resorbed, taken down to the roots, and taken up and moved to other branches of the tree. So we take very seriously your comment of the intermixture of, and the absolute necessity for that. It's embodied in a number of our programs. For example, in the science fair, I see that as an intermixture of formal and informal. That is, we draw upon school kids and upon teachers. We give teacher training sessions for science fair, but of course the kids work, and the parents work on these projects outside of the school day, and they present them outside of the school room itself. I think that's very similar with our Navajo workshop and some of these other programs, where although there's a relationship with formal science education, some of the training work and other aspects of this program can take place outside. So we ourselves are really watching ourselves carry out these two different types of formal science education. We admit that they're separate. We know that NSF, for example, has separate programs for formal and informal science education, but the bridges between them can be very important in terms of their efficacy. I think my time is up, but we were actually a little ahead of schedule, so I'm going to take my prerogative as the director here and having the phone to go ahead and take another couple of questions. Yes?
You have their extension to national scale.
Oh, yes.
And I wonder what does that entail and what motivates that?
Sure. So thank you, Ricardo, for bringing that up. So first I just want to point out. Yes. So he wants you to know what this extension to national scales mean. And I'll just explain the two little arrows on the vertical and the horizontal axes here. The assessment and evaluation is something that cuts across all of our programs. We have very active evaluation and research for at least some of our programs, and we're working to make that happen for all of our programs in collaboration with evaluation and assessment experts in our College of Education. The extension to national scales is really trying to move our focus not only here in Utah and Salt Lake Valley, which is most of where our work physically takes place, but to try to understand how we might relate these to scales and places and venues other than the state of Utah. And this conference is a perfect example of that, where by evaluating what we do here and understanding what might be relatable to other people working in math and science education in other states or other countries, we hope to extend that to a national scale. And I think that's what we just heard from Baylor, that they are, with their fabulous website and their resources, other people than themselves. So they're extending what they're doing beyond their state. So again, it's something that we're keeping in mind. Not every program that we do, for instance, we're working with the Mormon Church here with our faith-based programs, developing field guides, that is natural history field guides for missionaries who go out to other countries. Well, that may or may not work in Vermont, you know, where the Mormon missionary population is probably not very large, but it works here. So some of our programs are extensible and some of them may not be so extensible, but we always want to keep that in mind in our work. Thanks. Our next presentation, and this is our final presentation for individuals, individual centers, is West Virginia University from Morgantown, West Virginia. All right,
It takes two of
That's
us.
absolutely. This button right here is really fun to push.
Great. Good morning. I'm Sarah Hanks. I'm the curriculum coordinator for HISTA, Health Sciences Technology Academy.
I'm Kathy Morton McSwain, and I'm the assistant director for HISTA.
We feel like we have a little bit of a different program here. This is the New River Bridge in West Virginia, and the picture of the bridge is no accident. We really feel like we bridge the sort of connections between the university and the community. HISTA is a community-based organization. We are in 26 counties in West Virginia, And those 26 counties make up 14 different regions. And the goal of our program is to get underrepresented students from West Virginia not only going to college, but majoring in STEM and health science careers. And our focus is we have an after-school club program where teachers and students are involved in community-based participatory research. We have summer institutes on 4 college campuses in West Virginia where students are working with and in researchers' labs on various research projects. And we have various professional development opportunities for our students, or for our teachers, excuse me. So the research that our kids do, like I said, is primarily community-based. Our current numbers of graduates, we have about 1,600 graduates that have come from the program. We know that 96% of them have gone into STEM careers. I'm sorry, 62% of them have gone into STEM careers. That's a big difference. 96% of them have graduated. So we know we've started in 1994, so we're making a dent in getting our kids into college, getting them excited about science. So I'll let Kathy tell you about the challenges of our program.
The challenge of our program are the 3 R's. And the 3 R's that we face all the time are rigor, relevance, and relationships. And if we start with this, one of the things that we have to do is STEM and the STEM programming and bringing teachers up to snuff. And keeping them ready and apprised with 21st century skills. It always has to change, it always has to be movable. To do that, we have a new program which are Community Research Associates, which we are with 2 other people, so that we're out there in the community, live in our communities, and we're able to bring those issues from the communities back into the university so that they know what the kids' interests are and what the family interests are. Our challenge is the bridge, we said, and bringing rigor to projects with students and teachers and scientists, which means what a scientist wants to do isn't necessarily what the community cares about. And if the community doesn't care about it, if it's not a relevant issue to them, then it's not going to happen. And I think, okay. While keeping our projects relevant, we have to keep them relevant to the students and the community as they address the issues that affect the students and their families. And the big thing here is building relationships. You have to have trust in that community or your research isn't going to fly. And you have to, when you do that, you bring stakeholders to the table, which means stakeholders in the community also with the university. And it needs to be relevant, rigorous, and projects, again, that reflect what's going on in the community, whether it's diabetes, whether it's alcoholism, whether it's drug abuse. And those are the things that our students are interested in, and those are the kind of research projects that our kids want to do. And the biggest thing that we have to deal with is adultism. And that's a term that we had picked up lately, and it was a real shock factor. And adultism is, we come up with these wonderful ideas, and we know they're going to be good projects, and we take them out and we prepare them and take them to the community. And we don't have any student input. We say, hey, this is a good program. Would you like to do this research project? Sure. So adultism means, avoiding adultism means you start with students from the ground up and bring them to the table and bring the teachers to the table for the programs and things that they need so that you're doing real-time change when it needs to be done so that we're relevant and affecting the issues that our teachers have to do because we're teachers and we know what that's like. We've been in the classroom. Can I finish?
Yes, ma'am. Michelle Bonillo, NC State University with the Science House. We had talked over dinner last night and about some of the different similarities actually within our programs and about our needing to impact change in the communities. We talked a little bit about how our programs might impact economic development in our areas. Would you expand on how you've seen the program might have affected those areas that you're in with West Virginia?
Oh my goodness. It's phenomenal. It's just phenomenal because we're reaching kids that never would go to college. And their mamas don't want them to go to college because if they do, what normally happens in Appalachia is if your children go off to college, they don't come back home because there's nothing there for them to do. And so we're reaching a group of students that normally wouldn't go to college. They go out to college, they get educated in fields, but they come back home at a rate of 92% of our West Virginia students that we've had through this program have remained in the state of West Virginia. So the economic impact is phenomenal. And as of 2010, our latest research with the university showed that each one of our graduates impacts the state at over $26,000 more than their parents make. Wow. For you. Yeah.
Of the 3 R's that you have there, what do you have, what is rigor? Why is there, or what is entailed in the word rigor?
Rigor is bringing the classroom teachers up, bringing the students up, bringing the communities up, because what we're finding is the communities are really learning when the students do their research projects and present in their communities their issues and their findings. The parents are becoming involved and learning more about science, learning more about the issues. So it brings that, every year we try to up the rigor or make things a little tougher, a little broader, going, and my time's up. Does that make sense? That we encourage kids to take higher level courses in high school. Yeah, stop talking, Sarah. Can we have the lights back up, please?
Great, well that was fantastic. A wonderful opportunity to really hear what each other's doing, but I can't wait to really start nailing people and saying, tell me more about this program, so we can all have that opportunity with each other. What we're going to do before the break, there'll be coffee coming in about 5 minutes or so, is to have a group photo. We felt that this was a historic enough occasion for this first gathering of Centers for Science and Math Education to document it with a joint photo. So I want to introduce Emily Gaines, who has been really the backbone of logistics and planning for this meeting. Emily Gaines just joined us here about 2 months ago. She worked with the nonprofit group called Friends of the Great Salt Lake here in Salt Lake City, working in informal science education, and she's joined our center and just joined in with everything and has really been a hero in terms of developing logistics for this meeting. So Emily is going to take on the task of herding all of us outside, setting us up for the picture, and then Tori's going to be taking our picture back there. So Emily, you want to go ahead and give us instructions?
Okay, well good morning. We are just going to head out to the patio and see if we can assemble